and I'm going to have this baby killed. Under the age of 2 are killed. This actually has a name. This is called the slaughter of the innocents. So, he's going to eliminate any competition. Look in verse number 17. Then was fulfilled by what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet in Jeremiah 31, verse number 15, saying, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation, weeping, and great mourning. Rachel, weep, mother of Israel. And this particular location in Ramah, you go back some 600 years from the time of Matthew chapter number 2, and what you find is that this city was a staging area for those who were going to go into exile in Babylon. And so when this is talking about that Rachel is weeping for her children, this is symbolic of the moms who stood there and watched their kids being gathered and shipped off to Babylon. And the assumption is that they would never see those children again. In the middle of everything that was going on in this very first Christmas season, what you have is a group of moms who are grieving. And that's true back then, and it's true right now. And it's not just limited to moms. There are people who are grieving. There are people that Christmas time, yes, it's a time of great joy and celebration, but in the mix, there's grief. And these are the real life experiences that Jesus promises to help us through. And I'm not sure about you. The death of someone that you love, that is an overwhelming loss. It could be a failure of a long-standing relationship. And that is an overwhelming loss. It could be something like the death of a dream. Not a dream that you would have like if you had too much pizza, but a dream that you had in terms of your life. This is what I'm supposed to do. And you think you're going this way, and all of a sudden, man, it is this way. There are all sorts of things that it could be. So, what does Matthew chapter 2, verse number 18 and 19, what does it tell us about grief? I think there's a couple of things. What do we need to know about grief? One thing that we need to know about grief is this: it just spares no one. It spares no one. And sometimes it comes upon people who are young, and sometimes it comes upon people who are not so young, but it is coming upon everybody. Becky and I are no exceptions to this. It was 9 years ago, Christmas time, that Becky's father passes away. Then fast forward 4 years after that, Becky's sister Debbie passes away. Fast forward 4 years from that, just last Christmas, Becky's mom passes away. And in our family, every 4 years, Becky's dad, Becky's sister, Becky's mom, all at Christmas time. And so we know, not by the theory of this, happens. And out of your control, you are flooded by grief. Sometimes when you're in the middle of grieving, you will hear this. You will hear, well, you know what you need? You need closure. You just need closure on this. You need to get past this moment. You need closure. You'll get closure after the funeral. You'll get closure when you begin a new relationship or get a new job, and all of a sudden that closure becomes some kind of mile marker randomly put in your future that somehow is going to end your grief. But the idea is that you will get over it, whatever it was, that overwhelming emotion that comes from an overwhelming loss, and you'll get over it and things will get back to normal. All you need is closure. That is baloney. Because here's something that we all know about grief, and that is this: grief doesn't have any closure. Doesn't have any closure. Look, I mean, it may look different, but if you've grieved over something, it's an overwhelming emotion caused by an overwhelming loss. Tell me that you forgot about it. Tell me that you forgot about whomever passed away and you forgot about them. Come on, seriously, that's not how it works. Time heals all wounds? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. God can heal wounds. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there is no closure to this, right? A loss is never forgotten. There are times that grief overwhelms us, and there are some things that will happen and some times where emotion will come back, other emotions will come back. But sometimes what we think is that our grief is in this box right here. Here it is. There's our grief. And our joy, which is our life before the grief was here, our joy is over here. And it's either or. It's either you are in the middle of grief or you are in the middle of joy, and they live far apart from one another. Here's the truth, and that is grief and joy can be experienced at the same time. It's not just an easy gift exchange. It's not like, hey, you go to Walmart with your receipt, and here's your, chapter 3, verse number 4 says, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance. And by the way, when it talks about time, it is not talking about something that you can measure on a watch or a daytimer. And all of a sudden, you put your 48, should you allow anyone to grieve? If you find yourself crying unexpectedly, it's okay. If there are some times where it's just hard to function, it's all right. If you're lost in your thoughts, that's what happens. If you don't allow yourself to grieve, you're going to grieve anyway. It reminds me a little bit about if I had this cup of water and I hold my hands out and somebody's going to pour this cup of water into my hands. And I go, look at this. I've got it. Look at the water that's in my hands. And all of a sudden, all you see is the water dripping out of the bottom of your hands. You can't contain it. You can't hold it. It's going to leak out because you cannot contain